To Manchester United. So down to 10, but still a draw after 120 minutes. Following on from that draw with Liverpool, we said they needed to back it up. Did they do just that? Are we really seeing improvements here?
Yeah, I think that's what we said. It was great doing it against Liverpool. Can they then do it against Arsenal? Can they continue to keep doing it? And I think what we saw was a real strong defensive display. I thought they were very well organised off the ball. The shape was very good. I thought they worked really hard and, made it difficult for Arsenal. I suppose that helps with time on the training ground. They've had that period where Amarin can work with his players and work on the shape, so that's bound to help. I think also maybe having a consistent line-up in terms of not chopping and changing. We saw a lot of players in and players out. We were saying, was he sort of trialling players, or was that due to the amount of games that they had and he had to keep changing? So the fact that now you could probably name 9 or 10 out of his starting 11 that he wants. I'm not saying that's going to be his starting 11 moving forward. I think he certainly will bring in players that he wants to fit into that system. But at the moment, the players that he feels are right at this moment in time, you could probably say. So I think that helps with connections then, doesn't it? So, yeah, I think you've got to praise how strong they were defensively. I think the thing is now moving forward, I think they're playing Southampton next. What are they going to be like in an attacking sense? So if they've got to then take the game to teams, how are they going to be then? I suppose that's the next question. But from a defensive perspective, and obviously the result, the fact that they're into the next round, I think it's certainly positives to take. Yeah.
Let's talk about Alter Bayendir, shall we? And his post-match interview would have been music to Amarin's ears, because effectively what he was saying is, yeah, I don't play very much, but this is Manchester United. You have to be ready when you're called upon. He made that key penalty save in normal time. Considering how little he has played, how impressed was he?
Yeah, I think, like he says, though, you've always got to be prepared and you've got to train properly, be ready for those situations. So there's an element of luck at times with a penalty save as well, but then there's the other side of it where there is your homework, where you look at what the player who's taken the penalty does and what his record is. And Odegaard had a decent enough record. I think he scored 3 out of 3 before that penalty yesterday. So, yeah, it's a really good save from him. I think there's been sections of maybe Manchester United fans who've wanted to see a little bit more of him. I know he'd made a mistake previously the last time he played, but then when you've got that consistent run of games, you can showcase what you can do in more long term. So I think it's something that maybe Amarin will look at a little bit more closely, because I think Onana's been at fault for a lot in recent weeks and hasn't covered himself in too much glory.
Yeah. What about Joshua Zirkzee? When he stood up to take that final penalty, I don't know what he was thinking, but I was looking between my fingers considering what had gone before. We've seen him struggle since joining United. How much could this be a turning point? How much does he need this?
Yeah, I hope so. I was the same as you, and I think unless you're an Arsenal fan, just as a football fan, you just wanted him to do well. You wanted him to score that, because of what had happened previously in the Newcastle game, where he was took off. Was it 33 minutes? I think he was took off, and then what had happened with a section of the fans. So you just wanted him to be successful. I actually thought he did well when he come on. He held the ball up well. He linked play. He worked hard off the ball, and yeah, it's a big moment, isn't it? When all of that's happened, it shows, I suppose, the character of the player, and it just shows how football can change so quickly. 1 week you're coming off, and it wasn't just him. I think obviously Amarin needed to change things because of what was happening in that Newcastle game, because of how they were getting overrun in the midfield area. But you have to then go, okay, that's happened to me. How do I respond from that? And he certainly responded in the right way. It's now he's the hero, isn't he, scoring the winning penalty?
Stephen. You said for so long that United lacked an identity. When Ten Hag you were saying, I really don't know what this is. Are we starting to see that? And if so, what are we seeing that indicates that?
Yeah, I think we are seeing a little bit of an identity. I don't still think it's one that Manchester United fan. I know a lot of Manchester United fans have been buoyed by the last couple of results, and the result against Liverpool and the result yesterday. Sue touched on it earlier. I spoke about this the other day, about the system and how difficult it is to play in. I think the players are starting to adapt to that system, but more so in a defensive way. when you try and flip that and then go to an attacking sense, it's very easy when you play 3 at the back and you play wing backs to drop back into a deep shape, and you can invite pressure onto you because it should be difficult to break that team down. And I think that's what we've seen in Manchester United, especially yesterday against Arsenal, when they do go down to 10 men and they find it difficult to get up the pitch. But it's what's happening at the top end of the pitch. Where's the creativity? What's the ideas going forward? So I know he doesn't have the players yet to perhaps play out the system that he wants to bring in, which is that the 3-4-3 system. But I'm still not convinced by it. I'm still going to put my neck on the line and say I don't like the system, and I'm talking about that from a point of view of playing within that system. And I know I've taken a lot of criticism online and social media about this, but there's still an element where I think if you want to win things in this system, and that is ultimately what Manchester United are trying to get back to, is back to competing for the Premier League, from back to competing for trophies, is that's where you're going to be questioned. And people will come at me again and go, yeah, but Bayer Leverkusen did it. It's not the Premier League. It's not as competitive. Look what happened when they came to Anfield this season. They got battered 4-0 because of the system. Arne Slot found faults within the system. And then United fans will say, yeah, but they didn't find those faults in United when they came to Anfield. It's a different game. It's a derby. It's not this normal type of game that you play in, week out. There's so much emotion and so much tension in them games, is that decision making isn't quite at its best. So listen, the last couple of games, United fans will be buoyant. They'll be delighted with what they've seen, but let's judge them at the end of the season and where they end up.
He didn't like playing in a back 3, did he?
Hated it.
He absolutely
Hated
it, didn't he? Yeah. I think I got that after all these years. OK, Sue. I mean, winning an FA Cup third-round tie is lovely.
Yeah.
Getting a draw at Anfield, kind of OK.
Yeah.
But they are 13th in the table. They're closer to Ipswich in the bottom 3 than they are, points-wise, to Chelsea in the top 4.
Yeah.
So what is success? What would be considered OK for Amorim between now and May?
I suppose it's to see progression, isn't it? It's to see this team develop into the team that Manchester United fans want to see, something that they can maybe believe in and go, OK, this is how we're going to play, this is our identity, which is something that we said for a long period of time with Manchester United. We couldn't see how they were moving forward and what the identity was. You can straight away, you know exactly what they're trying to do. So I suppose to see progression in that, maybe the players that they bring in to fit into that system. And yeah, it's just building. So at the moment, we're seeing real solid defensive foundations. So they're building on that. Then it's, OK, what can we see from them in an attacking sense? Because at the moment, we are still seeing just those moments of brilliance. You know, the Bruno Fernandes finish, the breakaway, whether it's Ahmad or... So that's what we were saying previously. We were saying, well, they've got moments in an attacking sense, but can we see that consistently? So I think that's probably what Manchester United fans want to see. But I also want to praise, I think, Harry Maguire. I think he's done brilliant. You know, to come into that back 3, I think it suits him really well.
He loves it.
He does. He does.
He loves it, but you can tell, can't you? Yeah, and his performances of
De Ligt as well, that clearance.
Absolutely, and that's what you're seeing. So you're seeing that. Let's see the attacking sense. So yeah, if they could go and be successful in a cup and just see the progression, I think Manchester United fans will see that as maybe a building season for next year. I
think this is a really difficult question, though, in the fact of when you say what do Manchester United fans expect or what's acceptable, is all we keep on hearing is, and this is from United fans as well, we don't have the players to play the system. So if you don't have the players to play the system, where do you expect United to finish in the league? Then how do you expect to see United progressing as a team if they don't have the players to play within the system? It's very difficult, isn't it? And then you're going, well, we'll judge them next year when they bring the players in. That's when you effectively should be judging him, because it's very difficult to come in halfway through a season if he doesn't have the players to play the system that he wants to play. Now, if he comes in and says, I don't care about the players, it's just about improvements in the system and making sure things get better, they will start to climb the table, but he's going to get rid of quite a lot of these players, apparently. So I'm a little bit torn as to how you judge where they're at as a football club.
Yeah.
Effectively, you're saying, it doesn't matter what happens this year. It's all about next year. Then judge me next year when I get my signings in. But then there'll always be, but judge me in the next transfer window and the one after that, because I'm still adding to this.
Yeah.
And that's what people are always going to say.
And the other thing is, do Manchester United then really invest in that system and bring players in to play in that system to then go, oh, actually, that hasn't worked? That's another concern, I suppose, for Manchester United, because we saw what happened with Ten Hag, where Ten Hag was going to go and they then went, oh, no, we want you to stay. We'll give you all this money. So, again, he's brought in the players that he wants that now Amarin doesn't really want. So it's... Yeah.
What I gathered from that is Stephen is arguing, bin off the back three and go back four. You're not playing anymore.
No, I'm okay.
Yeah.
The main thing is that we have to understand for the club we play for. And obviously we know how big Arsenal is as a club and how big the rivalry between the two clubs are. But for us was just about to getting through to the next round, because we know that we want to go until the end of this competition. That is really important for the country, for the club. And we saw it last season, how was the feeling of winning it. And we want to try to repeat it. And we know to repeat that, you have to beat the best teams. And we did it yesterday, and hopefully we're going to keep doing it.
I saw your little interaction with Altay, but also a really nice moment yesterday for Joshua Zirkzee.
I like everyone to be happy. I want everyone to feel part, to feel involved. And I do really think a team to be successful needs everyone to be at the same level of happiness, even knowing that some players will play less than others. You need to find a way to push them in certain moments for them to feel that they are as much important as I am.
And for you as a player, it was nice for Joshua to have that moment at the end?
Obviously, the script was already there for a long time. You know, when you are a good person, when you do the right things, and you can have bad moments, but at the end everything will come through you. And I think Josh, that was a decision by the staff. The 5 players that were the first 5 to have the penalty, and Josh came last. And the only thing that came into my mind was to tell the players that the script is done. So everything is done since that moment against Newcastle at home. That prepared us to, in this moment, give Josh his moment and his credit and his flowers, because we can talk about whatever people wants to talk about, like penalties. It's easy. It's not to give much credit, but we got into penalties. We got Altay saved the penalty from Martin that hadn't missed one in his professional career yet, and then Josh, in a moment of pressure, with everything is being through in his mind, steps up and gives us the win.
Manchester United, it's been a great week for Ruben Amorim, and I don't think I even did him justice. I will later on in the show, though, by how significant this match and this week has been. So every time I want to get optimistic, something happens. Is this the moment? Is this the time now where Manchester United fans should and could be getting optimistic about what's to come?
Wait, you're getting optimistic and high about beating a battered down Arsenal team that's got all these injuries when you actually got a great result on the road at Anfield against a top team, and now you're saying we got a penalty win, and now we should be all happy.
Southampton.
Jeff, before I get to you, I want to address Chuck. What happened last time after a big win against Manchester City, Chuck?
For who?
United.
In the FA Cup?
No, they fell to pieces again.
They fell to pieces.
Yep.
They lost to Wolves.
Yeah.
So consistency is what they need. A one-off win is no good. They still have issues in the league table. You and I both know that it's easier to show up in the cup competition as a player than it is the consistency of the league. We've been there as players. So that's why I'm asking you, Jeff. We've seen the blip in the road happen for United before after a big result. Is there cause for optimism moving forward, even after this good week that they've had with Liverpool and Arsenal?
100%. Why shouldn't there be? After that result at Anfield against the most informed team in Europe, okay, Arsenal came off the back of a poor result, and it was a tired and jaded Arsenal as well. But you overlooked as well in your debate with Chuck there, Manchester United were down to 10 men on the hour mark. So they really put on a shift. They really did. I thought the back three were excellent. And I thought the spirit that they showed, they weren't clinging on either with 10 men. They were looking, they were making opportunities. They were still attacking. They were still going forward as well. I liked everything about Manchester United yesterday. I really did. And I agree with you. I think there is cause for optimism because good results breed confidence. And you can see that now, that they're buying into the coach. You can see that they believe in his methods. And you can see that his methods are working as well. No, I wouldn't be getting the flags out and say they're necessarily going to qualify for the Champions League. Of course not. Do I think it's been a significant week for them? Absolutely. And the one thing I would add as well, the win over Manchester City in the Manchester derby, they were lucky. It was two big mistakes by the same player for Manchester City. They didn't play well that way. They played really well away to Liverpool, and they played really well away to Arsenal.
Gary Neville and Harry Maguire have hailed the resilience Joshua Zirkzee showed after scoring the winning penalty in Manchester United's FA Cup tie against Arsenal on Sunday. After Gabriel cancelled out Bruno Fernandes' opener in the third-round clash at the Emirates Stadium, 10 Man United advanced to the fourth round after a 5-3 penalty shootout victory. United scored all 5 penalties in North London, while Kai Havertz was the only one of the Gunners for spot kick takers to miss his effort. It meant that after 4 penalties apiece, Zirkzee, United's 5th penalty taker, had the opportunity to seal his side's progression to the last 32 stage of the competition. For the 23-year-old, it was his first significant involvement for United since he was jeered off after 33 minutes at Old Trafford in the 2-0 defeat to Newcastle United at the end of December. But after Zirkzee scored the game-winning penalty in front of the travelling Reds on Sunday, Neville praised the resilience the Dutchman showed to bounce back from his recent disappointment. A few weeks back Joshua Zirkzee was subbed off and I described the reaction at the time on commentary as brutal. I felt sorry for him in that moment, wrote the former United and England fullback on LinkedIn. There have been noises that he may even leave because of it. As a young player who has had a tough start to his United career in a period where it's been a challenge for the club with the change of manager and results, and sometimes those reactions from the crowd happen and it's difficult for any player to deal with. To step up to take the final pressure penalty yesterday at the Emirates is exactly the response you want to see from a player when something like that happens, and you could see the reaction from the other players toward him and what it meant. It will have been a rough moment for him the other week and he still has a long way to go, but scoring that penalty and hearing the United fans singing his name was a great pick-me-up moment for him. Meanwhile, Maguire, who has endured his fair share of criticism during a rollercoaster career at Old Trafford, was also full of praise for Zirkzee. That game against Newcastle, Josh, was the unfortunate one to get subbed off. You could have subbed any of the 11 players off at that moment in time and they would have all got booed, because we all deserve to get booed because we were awful in the first 30 minutes, said Maguire. It had nothing to do really with Josh, he probably knows that and he probably felt it at the time, even though it was disappointing for him. It's a great ending today that he scores that winning penalty and the lads had full faith in him that he does.